Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
According to news reports, President Trump interviewed you and asked you to be part of the legal team defending him in the Mueller investigation twice. First in the spring of 17, when the investigation was just beginning, and again earlier this year. Is that correct?
No. I had one conversation with him that related to his private representation, and I can describe that for you. That was in June of 2017. That's the only time I met him before I talked to him about the job of Attorney General, which obviously is not the same as representing him.
Have you discussed the Mueller investigation with the president or anyone else in the White House?
I discussed the Mueller investigation, but not in any particular substance. I can go through my conversations with you if you want.
Well, not at this time, but I may come back to you and ask you about that. I don't want to take any more time.
Yeah, no, don't take any more time, Diane. Do not probe deeply into why you're considering for Attorney General a man who volunteered to be on Trump's defense team when nobody else would. So this is the thing, okay? Get ready for your bar exam, everybody, because you're gonna hear stuff that it's gonna make your head spin over here. So I know that Trump doesn't want an attorney general. He wants a combination of concierge, bagman, hired assassin. I get it. He is not gonna get that with this guy. You know how I know? This guy is a lobbyist, and he's 68 years old, and his area of expertise is deregulation of media. That's what he does. I mean, he's he's part of the telecommunications deregulation group. Okay, he was Attorney General of the United States for all of 14 months back in 1991. For 14 months, and he took that position and parlayed it into a wonderful, unbelievable career on K Street as a lobbyist, as general counsel to Verizon after he lobbied for them because they wanted, it's all about mergers and acquisitions. It's all about deregulation of media. That's what he knows. That's who he is. That's what he does or did. Now he's sort of semi-retired, you see. He is 68 years old, and he's had this fabulous career in lobbying, which he's turned into being Verizon's general counsel, and now he's a consultant, which means he doesn't really work. And my experience with these kinds of lobbyists is kind of big. And I'm telling you, they only know the area that they know. It's like a doctor who specializes in I don't know, nail fungus or something. I mean, you go to them with cancer of the lung. They can't help you. That's exactly the same thing with this guy. This guy, I mean, Trump cannot find anybody to work for him, and this guy probably retired and decided he doesn't like being in retirement, and wrote this crazy off-the-hook letter and passed it around, now we're finding out, to everybody. He passed it out to anybody and everybody that he could think of. He sent it to Rod Rosenstein. He sent it to Steve Engel, who's the assistant attorney general. He sent it to the White House special counsel, Emmett Flood. He sent it to Noel Francisco, our solicitor general. He sent it to a former Justice Department colleague named Pat Cipollini, who is now the White House counsel because Trump can't find anybody to work for him. Don McGahn is gone. He needed to replace. And so we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. And what we're doing here is we're actually going through some crazy little dog and pony show where, they only need 51 votes. They have 53. He's going to get confirmed. So I wanted to sit and listen to whether or not this guy was dangerous, whether this guy is scary, whether this guy would suppress the Mueller report, whether this guy is really, what Trump is looking for, a toxic guy. Trump is not going to like this guy. I'm just telling you right now, he's not going to like him because this guy knows nothing about nothing. No, he doesn't. Dianne Feinstein asked him about, okay, let me just play you the rest of the subject matter, and then I'll go back to Dianne Feinstein, and I'll show you. She asked this guy about the emoluments clause, because this is part of, what we're going to find about Donald Trump is that that he's enriching himself as president, which violates the emoluments clause. Trust me, this guy knows nothing about the emoluments clause. This is a little scary, though, that you're going to have an AG, an Attorney General of the United States, who doesn't understand the Constitution. Which is what we're going to have. Because he's a lobbyist. He's a media deregulation lobbyist. A mergers and acquisitions. You know how I knew this? Okay, this is really crazy. I was listening to the testimony this morning, and I was measuring my kitchen because I think I might want to, replace the backsplash. And so I was trying to figure out, how do you do square footage of a backsplash? Like, do I include this? And anyway, I had the TV on because I have a little 13-incher in the kitchen. Hi, Howard. And, yeah. And, so, well, when they get older, they shrink. He used to be 6'3". He's now 6'2". Telling you. But anyway, I have a little 13-incher in the kitchen, and I had it on, and I'm listening to him, and they're asking him questions about Trump's position on the Time Warner merger. This he knew about. And it was like ding, 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 ding. So I went and I Googled him. Yes, he worked for Kirkland and Ellis. And yes, he was the lobbyist that did all the mergers with various telecommunications companies that eventually became Verizon. And then Verizon hired him as general counsel. And oh, by the way, he was only attorney general for about 14 months of his entire life. And he has made this into, his calling card to become a powerful K Street lobbyist. This is what I said. It's like Fat Denny Hastert. He was once Speaker of the House, also a child molester. And, he's in jail now. No, I think he's out. But, Denny Hastert was a lobbyist for Turkey, and then he got popped as being, an ex-wrestling coach who was molesting the boys. Do you know what I mean? And I just know these guys. I just know who they are and what they don't know. But anyway, so Dianne Feinstein said, well, didn't you, interview with Trump to be part of his defense team? Oh, only once. She said, didn't you talk to him twice? Oh, no, that's incorrect. I only talked to him once. So Lindsey Graham, idiot boy, asked him, go ahead and explain what happened that Dianne Feinstein was asking you about. She said that you met with Donald Trump and you were going to be on the defense team. And he actually volunteers this, that the Israeli ambassador that Trump picked knew him. And he called him up and he said to him, look, the president is scraping the bottom of the barrel. He doesn't have anybody there to represent him. Would you meet with the president? Would you talk to him? And he said, yeah, I'll talk to the president. He went and talked to the president, and he turned the president down because he's 68 years old and he didn't want to become a defense attorney because he's not a defense attorney. He's a lobbyist. And so he said, I didn't want to go and have one client, which means I'm not a litigator. He did everything. And then he said, I didn't want to put my head in the meat grinder, meaning he doesn't practice law. Okay, he's not a prosecutor. He's not a defense attorney. He's not a litigator of any sort. He's a lobbyist. He didn't want to put his head in the meat grinder. But he's going to put his head in the meat grinder now and become attorney general. Let me tell you why. All he's going to care about, see, this is what lobbyists do. Lobbyists think that they're Forrest Gump, and they think that the key to their success is being in the right place at the right time and putting people together in a room, and that if you could do that, then you could either get a client or you can make a client's wish come true. Now, the reason why most lobbyists are, Republican leaning is because most lobbyists lobby on the tax code. And so you can't afford to hire a lobbyist. I can't afford to hire a lobbyist. So we don't get any representation when it comes to the tax code, which is why we always get stiffed. And corporations can pay zero taxes on billions of dollars worth of profits. So that's why. And so lobbyists tend to lean Republican only because they know the big money is to lobby on the tax code. Their clients are going to be corporate, so they're for corporate tax cuts. Hence, they're Republicans. Other than that, they don't have any values. They don't have any guiding principles. They don't have any causes. Do you know what I'm saying? So this guy is a telecommunications deregulation guy, right? And that's all he knows. But he's like, sure, I'll talk to the president. Okay. So now check this out. So he's saying he didn't want to get into the meat grinder. He didn't want one client, meaning he's not a litigator. And he didn't want to put his head into the meat grinder. But now he wants to be attorney general. Why? Because he's 68 years old. He's partially retired. You know, he's like a consultant now, you know, for Verizon. And so he's thinking, listen, I got kids that are lawyers. I got grandkids. They kept referring to his grandkids that were sitting there taking notes. They're all lawyers. So, you know, I'll go and I'll be the AG and I'll get my kids, into, various attorney general's office. I'll get them into, SDNY. I'll get them into federal prosecutor's office. I'll get them in, it's a good thing for me to do as a grandpa. That's who this guy is.
Yeah, so in June of 2017, middle of June, Ambassador David Friedman, who's the U.S. ambassador to Israel, who I didn't know. I knew that he was a top-tier lawyer in New York and apparently a friend of the president's.
Okay, so the friend of the president's, who has been appointed as the ambassador to Israel, okay, Mr. Friedman, is just randomly calling people to see if anybody will represent the president. And he finally gets down to the bottom of the list and he says, oh, this guy was Attorney General of the United States about, 30 years ago for 14 months. Let's call him.
Reached out to me and we talked one evening, and he said that my understanding was he was interested in finding lawyers that could augment the defense team, and failing that, he wanted to identify Washington lawyers who had broad experience that whose perspective might be useful to the president's, and he asked me a number of questions like, what have you said about the president publicly? Do you have any conflicts and so forth? And I told him that I didn't think I could take this on, that I had just taken on a big corporate client that was very important to me and expected a lot of work. And I said at my point in life, I really didn't want to take on this burden, and that I actually preferred the freedom to not have any representation of an individual, but just say what I thought about anything without having to worry about that. And I said that my wife and I were sort of looking forward to a bit of respite, and I didn't want to stick my head into that meat grinder. He asked me if I would nonetheless briefly go over the next day to meet with the president. And I said, sure, I'll go and meet with the president. And he brought me over and was squeezing me in. It looked to me like it was before the morning staff meeting because people were grouping by the door to get in, and I went in. And he was there, the ambassador was there, sat through the meeting.
It's pathetic. It's very, very pathetic. It's very, very, very sad. I will play you when we come back. Dianne Feinstein asked him about the emoluments clause. He doesn't know anything about the emoluments clause. She asked him if he had any confidential information on the Mueller investigation. His answer was, I don't recall. He was asked a lot of questions about a lot of different aspects of law. He did not know a million things. He's not an expert on this. He's not an expert on that. The fact that he's being considered for Attorney General should only tell you one thing, and that is we are at the bottom of the barrel. And that's not to impugn him and his lobbying career and all the money he made with his corporate clients and his mergers of, various telecommunications companies to create Verizon Wireless and be their general counsel in the end. That is what he's good at. Nothing else. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.